Every so often you have technology.
This is True Facts with John Leiberman, CyberstationUSA.com. What a show we have for you tonight. I'm really excited about this one. First, we're going to go searching for justice with a woman who has been trying to track down her mother's killer for nearly 3 decades. Not only that, but cops know that this woman's mother was the victim of a homicide, yet they've never been able to find her body ever since she vanished back in 1984. It's a horrific story, and the murder victim's daughter, the one fighting for justice, is with us tonight. And then, she has been the victim of sexual abuse, but this young woman that you're going to meet tonight is now on a crusade to help victims throughout the country and the world. She's already been successful in one state, and now she's on a mission to become successful all over for all sorts of victims of sexual abuse. You will not want to miss that. Then it's Wanted by the FBI, and of course, Take Two. It's my take. All of that tonight on True Facts with John Leiberman, CyberstationUSA.com. Stick around.
This is Don Eckert, host of Dark Matters Radio.
My name is Elizabeth Letchworth.
On the Street.
The Fairness Doctrine.
This is Mike Siegel.
True Facts with John Leiberman.
I'm Peter Anthony Holder.
This is Cyberstation USA.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
The most diverse station anywhere.
The best of the best.
The Cyber Station.
The future of radio.
And the operation is about to begin.
Cyberstation USA is the future of radio. Get your business into the online future at the world's largest internet radio station. From banner placement on our homepage to any of our broadcaster stages, commercials on our video player, audio spots on any of our shows, or at the beginning of any of our on-demand broadcasts. Cyberstation USA offers competitive rates with a worldwide reach. A fully integrated one-stop-shop social media broadcast platform. For more information, please contact our sales department at Cameo at cyberstationusa.com.
This is True Facts with John Leiberman, CyberstationUSA.com, and in tonight's Searching for Justice segment, can you imagine not knowing who killed your own mother, not knowing who could possibly be responsible for the murder of your own mother? Well, my next guest has been through that, and she's still going through that decades and decades after her mother went missing. Beth Profeta is with us tonight. Beth, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Give us a little sense about what your mom was like as you were growing up.
Very loving. She would help anyone, animal or human, didn't matter. We always grew up with every stray animal. They needed any help. She loved to paint and draw, and prior to her disappearance, she loved her granddaughter and, of course, her daughters, my sister and myself. But she had a new granddaughter that was like everything to her.
So she didn't even get to spend any significant time with her granddaughter?
2 years.
Tell me the circumstances around your mom, Mary, going missing on August 20th of 1984.
Well, about a year or so prior, all the children were grown and out of the house. She had married a man named Dominic. He had 4 children, and so my mother raised all of us, his 4 and her 2. And I grew up considering us like the Brady Bunch, if you can believe that. But, you know, I tried to rationalize. Of course, we were far from the Brady Bunch. It was, you know, somewhat abusive throughout the marriage. And I had been, you know, married to my husband, moved out. Everyone was having their own life. And we had my daughter. My mom worked like for a year to renovate her new house that her husband had bought her. And about 6 months afterwards, she just disappeared. And he says he came home from work one day and she was gone.
how did you get the news that your mother had disappeared?
Through his daughter. Took me out to lunch.
And what did she tell you? What do you recall about that conversation?
I only recall her saying that our mom took off and that she was quite upset that my mom didn't give her her pearls for her wedding because she was planning on getting married as well as my sister, Sherry. They were both engaged.
What went through your mind at that point, knowing that your mother was now missing?
Well, I thought maybe there was a chance that maybe things weren't paradise like I had hoped, because raising all those children were a lot of stress on the marriage. So I thought maybe, everything would be fine now. But at that point, that day, I thought maybe I was wrong and maybe she did take off to just get away.
Well, part of you probably wanted to believe that, right? Because at least...
Absolutely. And
now,
then several weeks later, I knew she wasn't coming home.
Tell me about that process. I mean, so at first you think maybe she did just take off, and then talk me through that process of eventually realizing that A, she wasn't coming home, and B, that she had actually met with foul play.
Oof. Yeah, I suppose you can only imagine running to the mailbox every day, hoping there's a letter or a postcard, or every time the phone would ring, maybe it's her calling to let us know she's okay. And then as the days turned into weeks, I just kind of knew she wasn't coming home.
What gets me is that your mother's body was never found.
Correct.
Yet police are 100% certain that she was the victim of a homicide, that she was murdered. How did police tell you that they believed that?
I believe it was through an informant made a statement to the fact that she was killed by the Hells Angels.
Right, and how were you, do you recall how you were told that your mother had been murdered, that police thought she was murdered?
I think just like that, just how I said it. And that's how we got it changed to a homicide instead of a missing person. It was pretty much validation because I already knew that she wasn't coming back. My mother sacrificed everything for my sister and myself. So I just knew. I knew she wasn't coming back. She would not have just taken off.
And still no answers. Now, I know that actually your mom's picture was put on some playing cards that police put out to kind of profile a bunch of, 52 of the unsolved murders in your state. What was that like?
A very proud moment. Very proud. She's the Queen of Hearts.
and
we
what is that? What is that like? That moment where you see that she's not forgotten, that even though the case is cold, police are paying attention.
Very proud moment. I've been heard. It was just very proud. And we know people know information, and the best way to go is in the jails. It's at this point, people in the jails, they hopefully will have tips to bring in. In one case has actually, I believe, an arrest has been made due to the cards.
Absolutely, and I hate to say it because you probably, you don't want to look at it from this perspective, but the more time that goes by, the better a chance that somebody is going to come forward because either A, they finally get a conscience, that's unlikely, but B, the more time that goes by, people begin to pass away, people begin to not feel so threatened by those who threatened them at the time with speaking out, and time changes those situations. So we can hope that somebody, will come forward with the information, needed to help solve your mother's your mother's murder. What do you feel in your heart, Beth, happened to your mom?
I don't know if I can answer that without getting myself in trouble. We have our suspect, and he has been named, so maybe I can say. Can I?
Right. Yeah,
in
you
my
can.
opinion,
I know that a suspect has been named.
Yes, in my opinion, I believe that her abusive ex-husband, as he divorced her on the grounds of desertion, I believe he's to blame.
And now he has never been charged, obviously.
Not yet. Yep.
Right. And police are waiting on information. And then, of course, you have a million different scenarios, whether or not he was involved, directly, indirectly, not at all. There are a number of different scenarios here. But the reality is that somebody knows what happened to your mom. Give us, Beth, what can people do if they have any information? Let's go over all of the particulars. Tell us about, the neighborhood, the location, the date again, so that people can rack their brains and think back, to anything around that time that might have struck them as odd.
Okay. Well, her house was 25 Wakeman Road in Sherman, Connecticut. It was the day he says he came home and she was gone was August 20th, 1984, in the middle of summer, and she always did a lot of yard work. So she was always outside working on her new yard and fixing up the house. She always had a baby deer come eat right out of her hand from the backyard. And, it is very kind of secluded. She had like 3+ acres up there. They had, and I know someone has to know something, and all they need to do is come forward, contact the Connecticut State Police, Major Crime Squad, or they can go to her website. She's also been profiled on America's Most Wanted. They can contact the tip line through them. There's many ways to come forward anonymously.
Tell us Mary's website again.
It's marybadaracco.com. BADARACCO.com.
Beth, is the hardest part the not knowing who did this to your mom?
I think the hardest part is not knowing where she is. Because I do believe God will get them, but I do need to find her. For me, the hardest is not knowing where she is.
And that is heart-wrenching. You have police, they declare it a homicide, and as you know now, it is very rare that law enforcement declare a case a homicide without ever having found the victim. So that's extremely rare, but based on informants and other evidence that we can't get into, police were very confident that Mary was in fact killed. But again, her body has never been found, and that would be the plea to anybody out there. Look, you don't have to name names. You don't have to name dates and times and locations. But if you have information about where Mary's body could be, you got to come forward with that. You can remain anonymous. You can go through Mary's website, America's Most Wanted's website. You can email me at john@johnleiberman.com. But Beth and her family need and frankly deserve some answers about what happened to their mother and about where their mother is, because you've been fighting this, Beth, now for almost 30 years. What keeps you going day to day in this search for justice?
What keeps me going is I know I am not the only one out there, and all of our cases can be solved if people would just come forward. My case could be solved tonight. My miracle can happen tonight.
What would it mean to you to get that tip that leads to your mom?
Well, it pushed me a little further along in the grieving process because I've been stuck. I've been stuck for 26 years in the beginning stage. And a natural human right is you're born and you die and then you say goodbye to your loved ones. And we have been deprived of that. And I think, those responsible are true monsters to do that to anyone.
Well, they are. To take away this dear mother and grandmother who only got to spend 2 years with her grandchild, I mean, that is a monster or a group of monsters who did this. But you know what, Beth? You know, there will be justice at some point, and it is heartening to me that, you know, there are good investigators in Connecticut still actively, you know, taking leads on this and working this case. And I think the playing cards that they gave out, you know, in the jails and prisons and to others are a good example that they haven't forgotten, and they won't stop until Mary is found and her killer is brought to justice.
Absolutely. My mother has a group of heroes, and I do believe we will have justice.
And Beth, finally, as we wrap up, how has this changed your life and your family's life?
Oh, as we wrap up, the ripple effects are just devastating. Now she's got 5 grandchildren that have never known the love of their grandmother. It's sort of tainted my trust in almost everyone. That day, part of my soul was ripped out, so I just continue on as best I can.
Well, our thoughts and our prayers are with you. We know that you're continuing this crusade to get justice for your mother. I can only surmise, not knowing your mother, but I can only surmise that she's somewhere looking down, awfully proud of you and the rest of the family that has continued this fight for justice. So, Beth, our thoughts and prayers are with you, and we urge everybody, go to our website, cyberstationlive.com/John Leiberman. We'll have a link to Mary's site there, and let's get a little bit of justice for Beth and her entire family.
Thank you, John.
Beth Profeta, thanks very much for joining us. This is True Facts with John Leiberman, cyberstationusa.com. We'll be right back.